This person is loyal and treats me like the head of the household. And if you really want to be a wife to me, this is how you need to be. I'm not going to be this person.
You stole my money. You stole my years. You stole my trust. And now, you're going to hear me. Janelle Brown's voice cracked through the courtroom like thunder, silencing everything in its path. Reporters froze mid-note, chairs stilled. Even the air seemed to pause. Every soul in that room turned their full attention to the woman standing with fire in her eyes and 3 decades of pain on her lips. Janelle wasn't just speaking, she was unleashing. This was more than a legal testimony. It was the reckoning of a life stolen, a truth buried beneath smiles, and a final stand made in front of the man who once promised her forever. But she wasn't only doing this for herself. No. She was doing this for every woman who'd ever been, silenced, sidelined, or stolen from behind the veil of so-called spiritual commitment. She stood tall, towering over the plaintiff's table, her hands trembling, not from fear, but from clarity, from rage held in for far too long. She had waited nearly 30 years for this moment, and she would not be hushed. Not today. Across the room, Kody Brown sat stone still. The same man who once led a plural family with booming pride now sat with his arms locked tightly across his chest, like a fortress collapsing on itself. The man who used to strut with assurance was now visibly rattled, his jaw clenched, his body stiff as he braced for the storm he never imagined Janelle could summon. And beside him, there was Robyn, cold, silent, hiding behind large sunglasses, her lips pressed into a tight, unreadable line. But even those shades couldn't mask the storm brewing beneath her composed exterior. She had been protected for so long. But today, the curtain was ripped wide open. The judge, an older woman with steely eyes and silver hair pulled back into a no-nonsense bun, nodded to Janelle. "Miss Brown, you may proceed." And with that, the floodgates opened. "This isn't about a failed marriage," Janelle began, voice unwavering. "This isn't about jealousy. It's not about fame or ratings or reality TV narratives. This is about betrayal, about injustice, about everything I gave up, and everything he took without shame." Every word carried weight, crashing over the room like tidal waves. Her voice wavered only once, a tiny crack, a human moment. But she caught herself. She was not there to break. She was there to reveal. For 30 years, I stood by Kody Brown. Through poverty, through pregnancy, through public humiliation and emotional chaos. I bore 6 of his children. I helped raise the others. I gave up my career, my peace, my independence, all for a vision he sold us. A dream he promised would include us all. I didn't just build a family. I helped build an empire. And when I walked away, all I got was an RV and a shattered soul. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Some were fans, some were former friends, but all were stunned. The quiet one had roared. From the defense table, Janelle's attorney, Lisa Carmichael, nodded approvingly, sharp-eyed and unflinching in her Navy business suit. She knew this moment would define not just the case, but the story Kody never wanted aired. "I'm not here to destroy him," Janelle declared. "I'm here to hold him accountable, because my daughters need to see that silence isn't strength, it's submission. That walking away is not weakness, it's power. And that telling the truth, even when your voice shakes, is how you heal." Kody shifted. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispering urgently. But nothing he said could drown out Janelle's voice. "He created a system," she said coldly. "A twisted system where love was conditional, loyalty was demanded, and money was mysteriously funneled into the hands of one wife, his favorite wife. We were told to smile, to obey, to stay grateful for the crumbs. But Robyn, she got the feast." Another wave of murmurs, disgust, disbelief, fury, it all surged through the courtroom. "Objection!" Kody's attorney barked, his voice cracking. "This is a personal attack." "Overruled," the judge replied swiftly. "This is her opening statement. She may proceed." "When I asked why Robyn got a 5-bedroom mansion and I got a damn camper," Janelle said, her voice rising, "he told me I chose that life. But what I chose was trust. What I chose was loyalty. What I got was financial devastation. She turned to the judge. This lawsuit isn't about our spiritual vows. It's about what he did with our money. It's about the businesses I helped build, the land I helped pay for, the empire I helped nurture, all of it slowly funneled away without my knowledge. It's about $385,000 moved into secret accounts, behind my back, while I struggled to keep my children fed. Across the room, Robyn's lips tightened. Her posture tensed. She knew her name was coming next. And all the while, Janelle continued, Robyn remained untouched, sheltered, shielded from consequence. While the rest of us bled, she bathed, in comfort. While we scraped, she expanded. The judge leaned forward, her expression razor sharp. Miss Brown, how long were you financially tied to Mr. Brown? Janelle didn't blink. Since 1993, every dollar, every property, every plan was supposed to be for the family. That's what he told us. But in practice, everything was quietly transferred to Robyn, slowly, strategically, without our consent. Her attorney handed her a binder labeled Exhibit A, Financial Fraud. Janelle opened it with steady hands. Inside, screenshots, transaction records, confidential emails, evidence stacked like bricks in a wall of betrayal. I didn't want to believe it, Janelle said softly. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. But when I insisted on transparency, he shut me out. I had no legal rights, no title. Not even a share in the Coyote Pass land I helped finance. The judge raised her brows. So you funded but never owned? Correct. No legal contract, just trust. And he shattered it. Silence gripped the room again. Janelle closed, the binder with finality. I gave him my youth, my energy, my faith, and he gave my money to her. Robyn's eyes were red now, tear-streaked, but still she said nothing. Perhaps because she knew there was no defense strong enough for what had just been exposed. Janelle drew a breath. I don't want to destroy him. I want to reclaim what's mine. This court must see this not as a divorce, but as the unmasking of a decades-long system of control, power, and financial manipulation. The judge nodded gravely and turned to the defense. Counsel, are you ready to proceed? Kody's lawyer stood slowly, visibly shaken. And in that moment, everyone in the room could feel it. Something irreversible had just happened. The woman they once dismissed as the quiet wife had become the storm. She wasn't just part of Kody's past. She was now the beginning of his unraveling. The judge called a brief recess to review the evidence. Everyone remained seated, stunned and breathless. The binder labeled Exhibit A, Financial Fraud, sat like a loaded weapon at the front of the court. And when the gavel dropped again, they all knew this wasn't just a family dispute. It was a public reckoning.
I'm not telling Janelle to be more like Robyn. I'm telling Janelle just to be loyal. I have 100% loyalty from Robyn. So, okay,
What began as a desperate plea for justice had now transformed into a full-blown financial exposé, one that peeled back the polished layers of a once-beloved family dynamic to reveal greed, betrayal, and years of calculated deceit. At the center of it all stood Janelle Brown, no longer the silent wife in the background, but the one woman brave enough to challenge the empire that Kody Brown had carefully constructed, protected, and hidden behind spiritual vows and legal loopholes. Her attorney, Lisa Carmichael, stepped forward like a sword drawn from its sheath. Calm, calculated, ready. Your Honor, she began, voice clipped and clear. This is not just about the collapse of a marriage. This is about the exposure of a well-hidden system of financial control and manipulation. My client, Miss Janelle Brown, has reason to believe that Mr. Kody Brown unlawfully moved more than $385,000 from joint family accounts into an account solely controlled by Robyn Brown, without notice, without consent, and without a shred of explanation. Another gasp. Even after the earlier shockwaves, the courtroom wasn't prepared for the number. Kody's cheeks burned red, but he sat stone-faced, trying to wear the illusion of composure. Next to him, Robyn's fingers twitched in her lap, sunglasses still, glued to her face like a wall between her and the world unraveling around her. Lisa didn't pause. For nearly 30 years, she continued, Miss Brown contributed equally. She worked alongside her sister wives. She built businesses, sold merchandise, filmed television shows, all under the promise that everything was for the good of the family. They were told the money was communal, that the income would be shared, that they were building something together. The judge gave a small nod. Proceed with your first piece of evidence. Lisa raised a document into the air, then pointed toward the courtroom monitor. Exhibit A1, bank transactions from the shared family account, spanning from 2016 to 2022. The screen behind her lit up with a spreadsheet. Line after line of large transactions stood out like bloodstains on white linen, $45,000 here, $75,000 there, all marked as vague, personal reallocations, all quietly transferred into an account under the name R. Brown at a separate bank location in Flagstaff. The judge leaned forward. Were these funds available to Miss Brown? Lisa's face hardened. No, Your Honor. When Miss Brown inquired about the family finances in 2021, she was denied access. She was told, and I quote, Lisa clicked to the next slide, displaying a blown-up image of a text message. It's none of your business. Janelle, trust me. Signed, Kody Brown. Gasps again. And this time, murmurs followed. Lisa didn't wait for the moment to pass. She clicked again. Exhibit A2. An internal memo from the family's business manager. It reads, per Kody's instructions, direct all streaming revenue to the R. Brown account until Robyn's mortgage has been fully paid. Janelle's eyes flashed. That was the moment her own worst fears had been confirmed. She had been told there wasn't enough money to build her a home, that there wasn't enough for her to leave the RV park. And all the while, her ex-husband was crafting a financial kingdom for Robyn behind closed doors. Lisa took another step forward. This is not a clerical error. This is not a miscommunication. This is financial isolation, Your Honor. My client was cut off, lied to, and made to believe she was incapable of managing money, all while Mr. Brown funneled family income into a private stronghold for one woman. The judge's pen tapped angrily on her legal pad. Were Christine or Mary ever informed of these transactions? Lisa nodded. Christine was completely excluded. We have a statement from her confirming this. Mary had partial access, but only with Kody's permission. Robyn, however, was granted full, unfiltered access to the largest family account. The screen changed again. Exhibit A3. A deposit confirmation dated just 4 months before Robyn bought her lavish $900,000 Flagstaff home. Lisa's voice tightened. This deposit happened just weeks after Janelle requested to use her share of the family funds to buy a modest home and was told it wasn't financially viable. The judge turned her gaze sharply to Kody. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to say? Kody rose slowly, looking smaller than he ever had on camera. Your Honor, he began, voice strained. This wasn't manipulation. I was trying to preserve the future, for all of us. I didn't want the money misused or spread too thin. The judge cut him off. So, you preserved the family future by placing it all in one person's hands? Robyn's? Kody hesitated. Robyn was the only wife legally married to me. The only one I could trust with legal forms, taxes, property. Lisa stepped in, slicing through his logic. So, spiritual wives carry the weight, but receive none of the protection. They work, they raise the children, they fund the empire, and when it crumbles, they get nothing? Kody flinched. That's not what I meant. The judge raised a hand, silencing him. Answer clearly, Mr. Brown. Did you consult Janelle before transferring joint funds into Robyn's personal account? Kody looked down, his voice barely audible. No. There it was, the admission. Janelle inhaled, chest rising, but no tears came. She was past that now, past weeping. This wasn't heartbreak. It was war. Lisa returned to the center of the courtroom. Your Honor, this wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was sustained, coordinated, economic gaslighting. My client was led to believe she was unworthy, irresponsible, ungrateful, when in fact she was methodically cut out of the fortune she helped build. She was told to live in an RV while Robyn walked marble floors. This is not a marital dispute. This is financial abuse. Kody sat stunned, his jaw clenched. No one came to his defense. Even Robyn remained silent. Lisa finished her statement with a voice like thunder. Janelle Brown isn't asking for sympathy. She's asking for her share, her rightful portion of a family fortune that was built on her back and taken behind her back. This is not about polygamy. This is about power, and a man who abused it for far too long. The courtroom sat frozen in silence. The judge gave a slow nod, then closed her folder. We will break for recess. Upon return, we will hear testimony from Miss Christine Brown. The bailiff called recess. Reporters ran outside, fingers flying over keyboards. Headlines were, "Being born right there on the courthouse steps." Kody Brown funneled family funds to Robyn. $385K financial trail exposed in sister wives court battle. Janelle drops bombshell in explosive lawsuit. But Janelle wasn't outside reading those headlines. She wasn't smiling at the noise. She sat quietly, still, her gaze unwavering. She had waited 3 decades for this moment, for someone to finally ask the question that haunted her through every year of silence. Where did the money go? And now, the whole world was finally listening. When recess ended, the energy inside the courtroom was unmistakably different. What had started as a family dispute was now clearly a public reckoning. Janelle Brown sat with quiet confidence. There was no more room for doubt, no more hiding behind spiritual titles or legal technicalities. She had laid out the truth with evidence, and the crowd knew. This wasn't going away. The doors creaked, open again. Every head turned. Christine Brown entered the courtroom like a storm in slow motion. Heads swiveled, reporters gasped. Even Kody couldn't stop the instinctual wince that flashed across his face. Christine wore a charcoal blouse, hair pinned back neatly, and her eyes glowed with something new, purpose. This wasn't Christine the peacemaker. This wasn't the ex-wife. This was Christine the witness. She made her way steadily down the aisle and raised her hand under oath. Kody watched every step like it might be the one that shattered him. Lisa Carmichael stepped forward. Miss Brown, can you tell us about your experience with the Brown family finances during your time with Mr. Brown? Christine didn't hesitate. I was married to Kody for over 25 years, spiritually. We raised 6 children together. And from day one, we were told the money we earned from TV, from books, from businesses, all of it would be evenly shared among the wives. Lisa nodded. And was that your actual experience? Christine's lips pressed into a hard line. Not even close. The courtroom gasped again. A producer from TLC in the back dropped their pen. Christine continued. At first, things felt equal. Kody said not to worry about the money, that he had it handled, and we believed him. But once Robyn joined the family, everything changed, almost overnight. She started getting upgrades while the rest of us were told to tighten our belts. Lisa leaned in. Can you clarify what you mean by upgrades? Christine nodded. When we moved to Flagstaff, Robyn got a brand new home, immediately, bought in her name. Janelle? She was told to live in an RV. I had to lease a house. Mary was left to fend for herself. The money conversations? Always about what Robyn needed. Kody didn't even try to hide it anymore. The screen behind Lisa flickered. Another document appeared, and with it, Christine's voice would ignite part 3 of this courtroom drama into full-blown fire.
But why does everyone think you're in charge of the finances? I mean, everyone...
Yeah, no, this is something I've begun to realize because Kody was always telling everybody.
Robyn sat at the edge of the empty couch, her face hollow, her spirit exhausted. For the first time, the cameras weren't rolling. The glam team wasn't fussing over her hair, and Kody wasn't storming around trying to control the narrative. The keyer. Silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. Just days earlier, she had walked into court expecting to hold her ground, perhaps even gain some sympathy. But instead, everything collapsed. Janelle and Mary had walked out with the upper hand, and Robyn was left holding nothing but the weight of her own decisions. Her tears weren't just about losing money. They were about losing face, losing power, losing Kody. Behind the scenes, things had gotten darker than anyone outside the family could imagine. Robyn had once been the queen in Kody's castle, the favored wife, the one who seemingly won while the others left in frustration. But now, that crown was shattered. The court's ruling had been decisive. Janelle and Mary were to be compensated. From Coyote Pass proceeds, Robyn's name was removed from the LLCs and Kody's financial accounts were being monitored. But the biggest shock wasn't the verdict, it was what came next. Robyn returned home after the court decision to find a suitcase missing. Kody's favorite duffel bag, the one he always took on spiritual retreats, was gone. No note, no text, no missed call, just absence. Aurora sat on the staircase, her knees pulled to her chest, whispering, "He left again, Mom." But this time, something felt final. Something cold. Robyn rushed upstairs, hoping it was a misunderstanding. Maybe he just needed space. But when she opened the drawer and saw his wedding ring placed deliberately beside her jewelry box, she collapsed to the floor. Kody had walked out, and this time, he didn't even slam the door. Janelle, meanwhile, stood tall and unwavering. The courtroom victory had brought her peace, but not joy. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation. Reclaiming her voice, her years, her worth. She had spent too long being silenced, being sidelined, and now the world had watched her rise. She didn't smile for the cameras outside. She simply walked to her car, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "Finally." The air was lighter now, and for the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe without guilt, without Kody. Mary's reaction was far more reserved, but the fire in her eyes said everything. She had been through the depths: emotional neglect, spiritual dismissal, and endless isolation. But in court, her truth had been heard. She had testified with calm clarity, her words cutting through years of gaslighting like a knife through fog. And when the ruling came down, she didn't flinch. She had already cried all her tears in private. This wasn't the end, it was her beginning. What shocked everyone even more than the ruling was Kody's behavior afterward. He didn't contest the judgment. He didn't issue a public statement. Instead, he vanished. For a man who had spent years craving attention, playing to the cameras, and framing his version of reality, his sudden silence was deafening. Even TLC insiders whispered that Kody had gone off the grid. Some claimed he was staying in a remote cabin in southern Utah. Others said he was trying to negotiate a last-minute tell-all to clear his name. But none of it felt real. Because for once, Kody couldn't rewrite the ending. Robyn tried to call him. Once, twice, 17 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. The desperation in her messages grew. Pleading, then angry, then hollow. "Did everything you wanted," she sobbed into the receiver. "I lost everything for you." But there was no reply. She finally turned to her mother for help, someone who had always warned her about chasing status in a family built on sand. "He's showing you who he really is," her mother said, her voice calm but resolute. "Believe him." Christine, though not directly involved in the case, reached out to Janelle and Mary afterward. They met privately, away from cameras, just the three of them. There were tears, there were apologies, and there was laughter, soft and cautious, but real. "We survived him," Mary said. "Barely," Janelle added with a smirk. Christine simply raised her glass. To freedom. The bond between them, once fragile and frayed, was now forged by fire. They weren't just ex-wives, they were survivors, sisters in strength. Meanwhile, TLC scrambled. The network had banked on Kody's charisma, Robyn's dramatics, and the chaos of polygamy, but now their golden couple had fallen apart. Producers debated whether to pivot the show entirely, focusing instead on the women's journeys post-Kody. Focus groups loved the idea. Robyn was no longer the sympathetic figure she once was. Audiences now rooted for the ones who walked away, not the ones who stayed. The network's emails leaked with panicked lines like, "We need Janelle front and center." And Robyn's numbers are tanking. Consider limited screen time. As Robyn walked through the empty halls of her house, once filled with laughter, kids, and constant filming, she saw it for what it was, an illusion. The grand home, the fancy furniture, the curated family image, all of it had been a mask. And now that the truth was out, it was hard to look in the mirror. The fans no longer saw her as a victim. They saw the manipulation, the gaslighting, the calculated loyalty, and they weren't buying it anymore. Aurora, who once idolized Kody, stopped speaking to him. She posted a cryptic story online. Sometimes, the people you trust most are the ones who destroy you. It went viral. Fans flooded the comments with speculation, support, and outrage. Did Kody hurt her too? Protect Aurora. Expose everything. The narrative had shifted. Completely. Robyn wasn't protecting her family. She was part of the destruction. And Kody? He remained a ghost. Occasionally he was spotted at a gas station or driving alone through Flagstaff with a blank expression. But he never addressed the court decision publicly. He didn't return to the family compound. He didn't even try to fight for his image. Because deep down, perhaps even Kody knew, this time, there was no one left to blame but himself. The court's final paperwork arrived. In the mail 2 weeks later. Robyn opened it with trembling hands. The judgment was clear. Assets to be liquidated, payments scheduled, and official separation of all shared ownership. It was more than a legal document. It was a death certificate for a family that had been fractured for years, but finally, officially was no more. As the sun set on what once was Coyote Pass, now divided and stripped of its original promise, a single crow flew overhead. A symbol perhaps of freedom, or warning. But the land didn't care. The mountain didn't care. Only the people who once called it home were left to carry the scars.